Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What happened to the bully in your class? Went to college, got into drugs, lost his scholarship and got kicked out. Last I saw, he's working construction and is making duck faces on his profile pic on Facebook. She did an insane amount of growing up during college, including having to uproot her whole life to care for her family after her mom died suddenly. She reached out to me and others I know personally and directly addressed the bully. We went out to lunch she bought, and she was incredibly honest, apologizing and acknowledging what she did and why it was wrong. She's now running a successful animal rescue organization with her long-term boyfriend, and I wish her nothing but happiness. Love a story with a happy ending. I'm glad she realized her mistake. Many don't, and die thinking that they did nothing wrong. This had a good ending to it. Hope you've also recovered and healed. He drove drunk, got in a wreck, and is now paralyzed from the waist down. He is still a bully, but now he's an online bully. The accident seems to have made him feel even more justified in being a prick. Send a video of you running up and down the stairs if he trash talks you. One is long dead from a drug deal gone bad. Another is a big-bellied deputy sheriff who was kicked off the force after decades of questionable behavior. Another guy commented that his bully beat a guy to death in a drug deal gone bad. Is this the other half? In jail for strangling his girlfriend. Thankfully, she survived. Those who strangle a partner are significantly more likely to murder them compared to other domestic abusers. Yep, 700% more likely. And with a gun, specifically. I'm literally getting someone into a shelter right now to get them away from this shit. Strangulation is called the last warning shot for a reason. Yep. I used to work in a DV shelter, and strangulation was like the thing that made us drop everything and start intake procedures when we had the person on a call. Like, it would be 1 a.m. and I'd be figuring out buses from the other end of the city, prepping a room, everything. That shit is extremely serious. The boy bully married the girl bully. They had a kid, then divorced. Shocking. Mine too, except for the divorce part. I hope mine raised their kid to be nicer to weirdos than they ever were. He is in Leavenworth serving a life sentence for murder. No one was surprised when they found this out. I'm going to be honest, I am a bit disturbed by how many bullies apparently went on to murder someone. Same thing for my middle school bully, currently in jail for a murder at a drug deal gone wrong. He was the driver at a drug deal gone wrong. He was the driver, but still caught the murder charge. Was a crazy thing. I saw an article about how someone my exact age from my hometown was arrested for murder and made a joke about how I probably knew them. My middle school bully. He was killed shortly after being released from prison. He apparently had a beef with someone and went to their house with a gun, kicked in their front door, and was immediately shot and killed. Wow, that's rather wild. Dude definitely thought it would go like the movies. When you play it out in your head, you never expect someone to actually have a reaction to your behavior. It was like the movies for the other guy. He died the summer after graduating high school. Mixed too many drugs and alcohol at a party. Very sad for his younger brother, who was a great person, despite his brother. Yeah, I'm pals with my old bully sister. She's a very nice person. It sucks her brother died, even if he was a dick. Hang on. Everyone's bully is dead? So mine just died, 16 years after high school. My class is going to his funeral as a group and sending flowers. I just don't want to be involved. Am I a bad person for ignoring it totally? There is no reason to go. A funeral is a memorial to the deceased. I'd offer that if you have no positive presence there, it isn't the right place for you to go. Think well for the family and anyone who is mourning their loss, but no, I wouldn't go were I in your shoe. No, you are not a bad person. People die and suddenly, oh, they were such a great person. No, some people were just cunts. I kid you not, we had a 5-foot-tall bully in our school. He gained favor with some of the bigger bullies, and I suppose that afforded him carte blanche to act like them. Anyways, a few short years after he fucked with the wrong dude at a party, and they followed him home and shot him dead on his mom's front lawn. Not to the same extent, but there was someone like that at my school. Short little dude who got a big man complex cause of the bigger bullies he rode with. At an after-grad party, he got jumped and someone took a metal rod and branded his leg after they dipped the rod in the fire. Post that incident, he works for a non-profit for kids in abusive home lives. Makes me wonder what he had going on behind the scene. Lots of bullies get bullied at home, and that is why they take it out on others. It gives them a sense of power when they have none in any other area of their lives. This isn't true of all of them, but a good portion. The bullies that have a good home life are the truly scary ones. His father was caught stealing millions from the community. Dad was a wealth manager, and all his clients were friends and neighbors in a sort of small town. The family was really put through the ringer of embarrassment, and the bully was a wreck for a long time. I guess he realized all the wealth and arrogance that he grew up with stolen from everyone he knew. I saw him years later, and it was like seeing a different person. He had changed his name, walked differently, and held himself with a different posture. We spoke for a few minutes, and it was almost like he was genuinely interested in me. He didn't go out and say sorry for what he had done, but it seemed like he wanted to, but though it would be tacky, maybe I'm reading too much into that interaction, but it was a little weird. It was like he had been forcing himself to be an actual nice guy. I'm gay. I wasn't out of the closet as a kid, but everyone knew. A Bulldog friend once told me you're incredibly butch until you move or open your mouth. Many guys were nasty to me about it. At my 30th anniversary, those of them who were there each approached me individually to tell me they were sorry. It was wrong of them, and they had learned better. It was surprisingly moving, and I appreciated it from each guy. The kid who used to beat me up every day in 3rd grade, I heard crashed a motorcycle and lost both his testicles. So he's got that going for him, which is not nice. You should approach him and say, mine are real. Just kidding. Nah, just call him numbnuts and go about your day. He now owns his father's huge, massively lucrative construction company, which is exactly what he said he was going to do, and also let us know how much richer he was going to be than us. So, yay, it sucks bees, it came true. Well, there's still time for him to develop a crippling cocaine addiction or something, so take heart in that. Mine became a professional football player in the N4. I get to watch him on TV now. Fuck. Well, he'll most likely end up with Steve, so you got that to look forward to. This guy I went to high school with always went to the special ed breakfast during our 0 hours on Wednesday. My sister has Down syndrome, so I'd go too. I'd known him since kindergarten, and he was always a nice guy who talked to everybody, even though they weren't his friends or in the same circles. He played football from youth tackle to high school through a year at a done program. Fast forward a few years, and apparently he killed himself after a night out with friends, and it took several days to find his body. He was diagnosed post-mortem with stage 1 Kete at the age of 25. I am so sorry for you and your friend. The poor thing. Kete has been found in players as young as teenage. It is simply not taken anywhere near as seriously as it should be. No one should be courting Steve by playing a down sport. It's sickening. I'm convinced that if football were invented today, it would be illegal to let minors get involved. It's another one of those things that gets grandfathered in because no one wants to admit that sometimes culture or tradition are wrong. I saw him rush the field at an NFL game and get arrested. Good times. My bully from elementary school through high school served prison time for embezzlement. Beat a fellow drug dealer to death during a transaction gone bad. Sentenced for murder, but then somehow it was downgraded to manslaughter. Served about 10 years and judging from his PI posts. I know his brother. He has a girlfriend, a job, and has cleaned up his act. Edit to add what happened. Just looked up the story. He was convicted of second-degree murder with depraved indifference. Then the State Court of Appeals changed the law interpreting the definition of the charge. The federal court vacated the conviction, finding that the defendant was factually innocent of depraved indifference murder. He agreed to plead to the lesser charge of manslaughter, so he had already served 10 years and was released after the plea to manslaughter. Yeah, see, all it took was a little bit of support to murder, a bit of support, manslaughter. Prison for killing people by lighting a diner on fire. Will you elaborate? This is not something you read every day. Back in late 70s, early 80s. Just read it in paper to no surprise. Think he set it on fire after hours, just as arson, but didn't know some staff were trapped in kitchen. Found out he got out of jail years later, and is in prison now, but not sure the crime. Opened a really stupid store in an overpriced mall in the 90s. Lost a crap ton of cash and killed himself. Leftorium? I wish it was that interesting. That would at least appeal to 10% of the population. After years and years of being bullied in middle and high school by one particular guy, I took my dad's lawnmower in to get serviced, and look who we have here. Good old racist fuckboy Sean walks up to the counter covered in dirt and oil and sweat. He immediately knew who I was. Funny thing is, I hated this dude for so long. I even had a vision on snatching him by his shirt over the counter and beating his face into the ground. I was skinny skater punk now. Nothing was said between us during that interaction other than the services I needed when I went to go pick the mower up a week later. He asked me to step outside. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going pummel this dude. He lit up a cigarette and for about 15 minutes apologized for how he treated me in middle school and high school. He told me about how he was brought up, and he's never been as tough as he came up. After high school, he went in the military and was forced to work with other races. He even explained that his hatred towards people that weren't white faded away BC of the Marine. He said he had been fucked over more by his own race than others and started to think about his ideology. He is a humble guy now, with regret, but is man enough to admit his faults. We shook hands and even hugged. I haven't seen him in about 10 years, but if I do see him again, I still shake his hand. Damn! Congrats, you witnessed something no person usually gets to witness. Oh, for sure. It still motivates me to be a better person to this day, and that interaction was almost 9 or 10 years ago. My grandfather had a similar story with the Navy. It got him out of bumblefuck, knocks, and away from his family, where he had to figure stuff out on his own. Came back from Korea and was basically ran out of town. I only met exactly one relative from his side of the family, whom he could barely stand but tolerated because, to quote my grandfather, the others were clan members. Good to hear about the both of you. For whatever fucking reason, he asked me out a few years after graduation. He bullied me. Had this happened to a friend. She ran into our mutual bully at a party in college. He was hitting on her and she was ignoring him. She finally told him to fuck off using his name. Apparently, he was shocked to realize she knew him. She apparently asked him why he thought she'd ever be interested in hooking up with someone who bullied her so much back in grade school. Apparently, his response was something like, "Wow, I was such an asshole back then." That's a pretty good response, all things considered. You spend all day behind the wheel. It's not until someone shows you their dash cam footage that you realize how bad of a driver you are. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Everybody can change, but not without a good reason to do so. I once asked my buddy, who drives about 18 of a car length behind the car in front, "Why do you drive so close to the car in front?" And he said, "I don't." Like, he definitely does. Way too close. But he just can't see it apparently. I never got the concept of bullying picking on your crush. Like, what would anyone expect their outcome to be? Mine told me, after years of torture, that he thought if he made it so that nobody wanted me, he could then swoop in and get me. Now I still catch myself being overly suspicious of people like 15 years later. And this is why bullies suck. The trauma they cause can be lifelong. I still remember being bullied from when I was 10 or 11, 44 now, and the names I was called. I definitely get suspicious of others' behaviors when I think they're trying the same maneuvers my bullies tried when I was in primary school. They murdered someone and are now in prison. Haha, same, however. A year after graduation, my friends and I were leaving a restaurant, and we saw him horribly attempting to break into a car. We were like, "Robbie, no," and he called us pussies and walked off. After the 20th reunion, heard he moved to Dallas, met an attorney, killed him, and horribly tried to cover up the murder, but was caught that day. Dumbass. She became an influencer and have tons of followers because people think she is really funny because of how stupid she is. She kinda have a Paris Hilton persona going on. Very spoiled rich girl, pretending to be stupid and know nothing about the world. It's entirely not surprising to me that his bullies can be good as influencers. They live for their crowd's validation, and now with the internet, they can have much more than their local crowd. Her father got sued and they lost everything. House, cars, drained their money, all of it. Last I heard, she was living in a rundown apartment and working at a small gas station. Do you know why he got sued? He was an anesthesiologist, drunk at work. Patient woke up mid-surgery. Interesting. Well, he deserved what was coming to him, I guess. Do you feel she did too? partially. She always looked down on everyone, very mean and snobby. It's definitely unfortunate she lost everything due to something so out of her control, but I do hope it was a wake-up call for her and she'll be a better person moving forward. I was only ever bullied in elementary school in Texas. I moved to Ohio during 5th grade. At some point in late middle school or early high school, I heard the guy who used to bully me got mad at his parents because they wouldn't let him go to a concert, so he took his dad's shotgun and killed himself. Wholly disproportionate overreaction. Batman. Speaking from experience, the event that such actions get blamed on is never what actually caused it. What the rumor says. Kid kills himself because he couldn't go to a concert. How spoiled. What that almost always means. Victim of child abuse with long-standing suicidal thoughts, gets tired of being abused every day, kills himself after the most recent abuse session, which coincidentally happened because his abusive parent got angry when he tried to leave the house to go to a concert. My middle school bully from my class got hit by a car and didn't go to school for a whole year. Then he skipped school for the next year, literally the entire year. Then he finally got expelled, and I never saw him or heard anything about him. I was bullied so bad by a kid in middle school, I switched to a school in the next town over. Ran into him in high school at the in-car. I had hit puberty by then and was way bigger than him at this point. I asked to guard him, and I played as dirty as I could. Knee to the chest when he tried to block my layup, elbows flying everywhere at all times. Bone-crunching picks. Never said a word to him. Just beat him up as much as I thought I could get away with while generally staying within the room. I know it was petty off, but it was cathartic. Never saw him at the eye again. I'm sure this is true, but it's also 100% my 9yo fanfic type of writing. He's on Facebook constantly crying about how unfair life has been to him. He also said he won't go to our 10-year his reunion because he was bullied by the assholes that are now organizing the reunion. When I commented and reminded him how he bullied me, he just said, "At least I didn't make you suicidal like they made me." Completely delusional. I feel bad for him. Oh, I have the best one for this, guys. Promise! So my bully was a guy. I'm a chick, and he was relentless. From kindergarten through middle school. Peaked in middle school. He would stick his leg out and trip me when I would walk by, then laugh. Crap like that. He annoyed everyone. Imposed on your personal space. Would tell lots about me to others, so they would not like me. It really bothered me deeply. I could not understand what I had done to have someone so adamant about humiliating and hurting me, publicly. Well, after middle school, he disappeared to some other school and I slowly repressed it all and forgot of him in my active thoughts. Then I get my first apartment with a friend and a real job and going to college. I'm sitting on my new couch in my new place, watching To Catch a Predator, like everyone did back then. Next up on To Catch a Predator. And I hear his name. I hear that jerk-off's name. I hear that jerk-off's name. And there he is walking in to meet an underage girl he has very disgusting text combos with. I could not believe it. I stood up and screamed aloud. I felt so vindicated for the feelings of hatred and inability to forgive him as a younger girl. Justice served. He became the CEO of the company he started in after college. He is the chairman of the local football team and runs the beach cleanup crew every month. Always has a smile and has clearly just kept on growing up. Wasn't necessarily my bully, but this kid at my school terrorized everyone. He was an absolute shitbag. Hadn't heard anything about him for years until I flicked on a Guy Ritchie film recently, and he was it. Turns out he's now gone on to become a semi-successful actor. I actually hold no resentment because the kid was pretty fucked up. His mum was dead and his father was an abusive alcoholic. So fair play to him for breaking the mold. Well, that's a nice change compared to the others. Are you him? Keep talking 4 eyes. See where it gets you. He's selling mobility scooters and supporting his stepchildren. He was abused at home and I was an easy target. Back then I fantasized about murdering him. Now I appreciate that he was crying out for help. I'm never going to be best friends with him, but I'd shake his hand and wish him well any day. I saw him walking in front of my family's house. Certain he was passing by while I was playing with my daughter and her cousins. He gave me a little wave and I thought I'd just wave back to be nice. He messaged me later on Facebook and said he's glad I'm doing better than him. Long story short, he told me his ex-wife and him are having a serious custody battle with their kid and recently got a Dewey, which got him in a deeper hole. He basically said, don't end up like him. As much as I hope he gets better, karma really is a bit. He was probably never doing well in the first place. Local politicians. No idea. I left town and never looked back. Many years after graduation, I found out that he became a local cop in the town we grew up. It was the least surprising thing to everybody. Whoa. Mine became a cop too.